So on the road, actually heading to Vermeer Midwest to pick up it's a FECON 135. So this is a demo machine as of now, and we're gonna do a little bit of running with it and see how things go. So look, I got no idea what I'm doing. I don't know who put me in charge of this thing. Terrible idea. All right, new job kind of up by Dixon, so getting ready to get started on this one. But today's kind of an interesting day. So demo machine from Vermeer Midwest. Semis here, getting ready to roll. Welcome back. So as you can tell, this video is quite a bit later than the actual time frame where we were doing the demo of the 135. So I just wanted to kind of wrap all my thoughts up on this machine and the situation about, you know, how we kind of ended up going the direction that we did. When this machine was introduced, obviously it caught my eye. It was supposed to be the king of the hill in the mulching world. 135 horsepower, 50 gallons a minute, high flow. I think it's like 4,000 PSI. ASV or FECON, you know, definitely has a great reputation in the mulching world. So the machine that we demoed is a FECON 135. It was through Vermeer Midwest, and FECON has a deal where they are rebranding the ASV 135 and selling them under the FECON name through Vermeer Midwest. Same machine, same specs, no difference other than really the stickers on the machine. I was at a point where I was looking for a replacement for my John Deere 333G. Like I said, once this machine was introduced, there were a lot of things about it that really caught my eye. And you know, the horsepower and hydraulic specs for somebody in my business, man, that's like, it doesn't get any better than that. So I was approached by Vermeer Midwest, who's actually, that's who I bought my excavator and mulching head from. And they approached me about doing a demo on a 135, knowing that I was kind of entertaining the idea of upgrading my machine. With that being said, going into the demo, I was almost 100% certain that's the machine that I was going to get. And to be honest, when we set the demo up, I wanted to demo that machine, the 135, with the FECON Blackhawk head. Vermeer set me up with the machine and the head, and to be completely honest, when I picked the machine up, I had zero intention of giving it back. I really wanted to spend some time running it, but going into the demo, I was almost certain that's the machine that I was going to buy. I honestly had not entertained looking at other machines because of what this thing looked like on paper. 135 horsepower, 50 gallons a minute high flow, adjustable high flow in the cab. The cab on that thing, the redesign was awesome. You know, going with the clear view windows where they're all half-inch Lexan. The view out of that thing is amazing. The cab size is good. I'm 6'4". I generally don't fit in machine cabs very well. It's still a skid steer. Like, it's, you know, it is what it is, but compared to everything else I've been in on the market, that was definitely the cab that I was most comfortable in. Especially legroom, which is an area that, you know, I really have issues with. I had very high expectations of that machine when I picked it up. Maybe they were unrealistic, I don't know. But like I said, I really had not even thought of going a different route. Picking that machine up, I was almost 100% certain I was going to buy it. The first day running it was a rough experience. The first thing I noticed, and I will say, there is not a single machine on the market that does not have some kind of issue. None of the machines are perfect, and I will be absolutely upfront. My Deere 333 is not perfect. I could give you a laundry list of things that frustrate me about that machine. So it's not that I was expecting perfection, but that machine, the specs on it, and the cost of that machine, I had extremely high expectations out of it. But I really thought they could deliver. Like I said, the first day I had that machine on a job site, it was actually clearing a fence line around a pasture, the outside of the fence, for maintenance purposes, and the landowner was going to redo the fence. And some of that video will be in here. The first thing I noticed is the suspension system, which I thought would be a huge benefit, ended up being a big frustration for me. I am used to a solid undercarriage machine where they ride rough, but they're predictable. If you drive over the top of something, like say you drive over a curb, once the machine tips, that's it. It's now on that plane steady. The one thing I noticed about the ASV is once it would tip, it would bounce. And if you were in a situation where you were driving over, like say a stump that had not been cut all the way down to ground level yet, or like say a down limb where you're driving over the top of it to get to other material and then back drag. That machine would bounce a lot, and a lot of it may be the fact that I'm not used to a machine with any kind of suspension, but it would bounce me around the cab, and it got extremely frustrating because almost all of the situations that I work in are uneven terrain. In the process of the job, I have a lot of material on the ground that I am trying to process up and back drag and smooth out. So I'm constantly driving over, stumps and limbs and uneven terrain. It was a constant battle with that machine, which led me to the second issue that I ran into. The hydraulics on the machine seemed lazy in responsiveness and jumpy. So one of the things I noticed is bouncing around in the machine. If I would go to make a correction, I would make the correction and the machine would not immediately react. So a lot of times, like if I was trying to turn left, I would continue to push the joystick left until the machine would react. Because it was a slow response time, I would end up overcorrecting, and so I would bounce back and forth to get the machine into the position I wanted it in. And it was kind of jumpy because once you would go to that point where the machine would react, it would be a significant reaction that was more than what I was planning on, and so I would counter react. That was an issue. With that being said, my previous 333, I had spent well over 2,000 hours in that machine alone. I was extremely comfortable in the machine with how it would react and how predictable it was in those situations. One of the things that I did notice is the deer controls are a lot more responsive. You can make minor changes quickly, and the machine does not overcorrect or overreact. That was one of the frustrations I had with the 135. You pair that up with the suspension system in uneven terrain, I felt like I was constantly battling the machine to get it to do what I wanted it to do between the bounce and the hydraulics. That is something that maybe if I had 2,000 hours in that machine would not be an issue. But going from my previous machine to the demo machine, it was extremely noticeable to me in that scenario. The other major issue that I had with it was the hydraulic pump was very loud. And to be fair, we are talking about a dedicated high flow pump that is running at 50 gallons a minute, 4,000 PSI, driven by a 135 horsepower machine. That pump is working. I do not expect it to be absolutely silent in the machine. None of these machines are, but I expected it to be manageable. The pump noise in the machine was way more than what I expected. And normally I run noise canceling earbuds and listen to podcasts, while I'm running. On an average day in my other machines, I will have noise canceling on, roughly the volume halfway up. I can still hear the machine run. I can still hear, pumps and the material through the head. I can hear all that stuff, but it's on the very low side of what I can hear. The 135, even with the earbuds turned all the way up, the pump was more than what I wanted to listen to. So you could run like earmuffs, Bluetooth earmuffs. There's options. Most of my decision was, being the sole operator of the machine and cutting the check for the machine, my experience of spending 8 to 10 hours a day in it. So those were kind of the major issues that I had. Minor issues like the backup camera I was not impressed with. You know, if you're in the middle of the timber where there's not much sunlight and you're trying to work around trees or whatever it is, I want a pretty clear picture. It doesn't have to be 4K high def video, but I want a pretty clear picture of the hazards around the machine so I can work around them and just be able to glance at the monitor and see what I'm dealing with. The backup camera the picture quality was less than ideal. I could have worked with it. It wasn't a deal breaker, but that was one of the things that with that machine just being released, it was a brand new build, I expected better out of it. Little frustrations like the def cap is annoying. I personally didn't have the problem, but I know a lot of guys had issues with fueling the machines up. Just little knick-knack stuff. Like I said, really for me, the biggest issues that I had with the machine were the suspension, the hydraulics, and the pump noise. The little frustrations, every machine has them. You know, I've said even in this video that I could give you a list of stuff that frustrates me about my deer machine. The reality is I'm the one that has to run this machine 10 hours a day. I'm the one that has to foot the bill for it. Going into it, I had extremely high expectations of the machine. Maybe they were unrealistic, but when I spent the time in the machine, I was frustrated with the overall experience. Now, I will say, as far as the power and the hydraulic abilities of the machine running the mulching head, phenomenal. And that machine paired with a Blackhawk head, great results. I got some extremely good results on projects where it would have been tough. I was very happy with the performance of the machine. Really, my frustrations were from the operator side. The other downside is that machine is cost-wise one of the, if not the highest cost machine in the skid steer platform on the market. Working with Vermeer, they really did everything they could to try and get this set up. And truth be told, if I would have bought the machine, it would have been not so much because of the machine, but 100% because of the dealership. I cannot say enough about how well Vermeer has taken care of me. And even to this day, you know, they are top notch. My salesman, Andy, is awesome. I can't say enough good about those guys. It really came down to the financial aspect. When I picked that machine up, I was expecting to get a machine that was pretty much untouchable, where nothing else on the market could compare to that machine, its performance, its comfort, and the operator experience. The reality that I had was the performance was amazing. The operator experience for me was less than ideal. And a lot of that comes from just the amount of time that I've spent in my own machine. So at that point in time, it really absolutely came down to just a numbers game. You know, because it was not heads above any other machine on the market, then I started to compare it honestly to the 333. Specs on paper, the 135 should have it every day. The horsepower, hydraulic flow is definitely a noticeable difference. But it really came down to the fact that machine compared to the deer, like the deer was predictable. I was comfortable with its performance and what to expect out of it. Numbers wise, the 135 was significantly higher priced than the 333. And at that point in time, with the economy and interest rates the way they are, not only was the initial cost of the machine higher, but financing wise, my interest rate would have been double what I could have got through Deere. So in the long run, the overall cost of the machine at the higher interest rate would have cost me significantly more money than what a 333 would. And I did not feel like the performance and the operator experience of the 135 was enough where I could justify the extra cost. So long run, and if you followed the channel, you guys know that I did end up buying another 333 with it's a rebranded FECON head through Deere. It's like every other machine. It's got its positives and negatives. It is what it is, but for the money wise and the financing, it was just the route that I had to go business wise. I'm not going to say, I won't say that the 135 is a bad machine. And maybe it's something where if I spent a lot more time in it, I would have a completely different outlook. But for the time I had, and I was at the point where I had to make a decision, I needed to get a machine I owned onto some of these jobs. I just had to make a decision, and I couldn't justify the extra expense of the 135 considering it wasn't an absolute, amazing experience compared to anything else on the market. I am not going to rule out buying one at some point in time. I'm looking at a lot of different options for the business right now. One of them being a dedicated machine. There's a lot of things kind of in play, and who knows where it'll go in the future, but I just wanted to kind of throw all of my thoughts on the 135 together to put into this video. And really, truth be told, the entire decision came down to the black and white. If the machine would have been what I expected, I probably even would have just ate the extra cost to have a machine that was, I was absolutely in love with. The fact that I wasn't as in love with the machine as what I originally anticipated, then it was just another machine on the market, and it was, what's the cost and what's the value. So hopefully that'll help guys looking at these things, trying to decide what machine is right for them, what environment they work in. If I was doing a lot of high production stuff where I needed, to be able to go in and just hammer out a bunch of acreage in a hurry, yeah, the 135 definitely would have advantages in that situation. Most of my projects are residential and personal properties where, covering a lot of ground in a hurry isn't always the biggest factor. I need good finish quality. I need, to be able to work around buildings and fences and a lot of those other scenarios where I struggled with this machine. So hopefully that'll help you guys kind of wrap this whole thing up and understand why we made the decision that we did. Great machine. It was fun to run. Like I said, I was just expecting to be kind of blown away by the machine as a whole, and the performance was amazing. The operator experience was not what I was expecting. So hopefully that helps. Thanks for checking in. I know the video was a long one, but I think there was a lot of content and information to go over about my experience with the machine and why we made the decision that we did. So thanks for checking in, and we will talk to you later.